Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to work on lesson 13. Yesterday I talked about, I think yesterday's lesson may have been the first time that God was brought up. And I wanted to just talk about that for a bit because I think any of us that have had a religious upbringing or background, when it have certain ideas about God, and I guess the lessons are all about letting go of those ideas too, but I don't want you to be frightened away by the term God or holiness or any of those words that might come up in future lessons or if you're reading the text in the text. Because the aspect or the idea of God is not based on religious teachings or terms as in religion, and I was brought up in Catholicism, so God was always above us, always judging. And, at the end of our lives, God would judge us by our sins, by our good works, by how we lived our lives. And based on that, we would either go to heaven or hell. Course in Miracles, totally different thing. Really, our hell is on earth when we choose to suffer. And God is a part of all of us and who we are. We are all little sparks of God that are expressing ourselves and experiencing this human experience from different perspectives. And it's really all about God showing us home to that loving presence. So I am a part of God, and when I trigger someone else, it's just God saying, can you love me like this? Can you love me, no matter how I am in this human form and how I'm experiencing this human life? So I want you to really not think of God as this being, this all omnipresent being that is, somewhere up there, watching us and judging us and ready to, slam down the gavel at the end of time and say, no, sorry, you don't deserve to be here, because we all deserve heaven. And I think we can find that heaven even in our human experience if we choose to let go of suffering. So just wanted to get that part out of the way because God is going to be mentioned again today in the lesson, and it will be mentioned as we go along the lessons too, and more. So I just want you to get used to the idea and not put past experiences onto the meaning of God for yourself, and just be a little more open and soften into that experience of a new way of looking at what God is. Okay, so today's lesson is a meaningless world engenders fear. A meaningless world engenders fear. Today's idea is really another form of the preceding one, except that it is more specific as the emotion aroused. Actually, a meaningless world is impossible. Nothing without meaning exists. However, it does not follow that you will not think you perceive something that has no meaning. On the contrary, you will be particularly likely to think you do perceive it. Recognition of meaninglessness arouses intense anxiety in all the separated ones. It represents a situation in which God and the ego challenge each other as to whose meaning is to be written in the empty space that meaningless provides. So we tend as human beings not to like that empty space. We want to fill it with something. And so if somebody has done something and we see it as, a way of hurting us, we can fill that empty space of not knowing with all sorts of stories about what might be going on and why that person might have done what they did. probably all meaningless. Most likely, for sure, all meaningless. The ego rushes in frantically to establish its own ideas there, fearful that the void may otherwise be used to demonstrate its own importance and unreality, and on this alone it is correct. So the ego is very, very afraid of the void, that vastness, that unlimited time and space in which who we really are and the loving presence truly exists. And as I said, we'll try to fill that void so as not to become redundant. It is essential, therefore, that you learn to recognize the meaningless and accept it without fear. If you are fearful, it is certain that you will endow the world with attributes that it does not possess and crowd it with images that do not exist. So that goes back to what I said a few minutes ago about how we create stories about an experience, and we have no idea why it's happening, but we like to create our own story about why it's happening to fill that void. To the ego, illusions are safety devices, as they must also be to you who equate yourself with the ego. So as long as you see yourself as the ego and not something that's trying to pull you away from loving presence, you will see those illusions as a way to preserve your safety. The exercises for today, which should be done about 3 or 4 times for not more than a minute or so at most each time, are to be practiced in a somewhat different way from the preceding ones. With eyes closed, repeat today's idea to yourself. Then open your eyes and look about you slowly, saying, "I am looking at a meaningless world." Repeat this statement to yourself as you look about. Then close your eyes and conclude with, "A meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God." So don't try and analyze it. Don't worry if you don't feel like you're getting it or think that you're getting it. Just doing the lesson and setting that intention starts a process in motion that underneath and in the background will begin to change and undo the way you see the world. You may find it difficult to avoid resistance in one form or another to this concluding statement. Whatever form such resistance may take, remind yourself that you are really afraid of such a thought because of the vengeance of the enemy. The vengeance of the enemy. You are not expected to believe the statement at this point. So even if you don't believe it, that's okay. And we'll probably dismiss it as preposterous. That's fine. It really is fine. The fact that you're doing it is the important thing. How you feel about it, what you think about it, whether you believe it or not, is not the important thing. It's about doing the lesson. Note carefully, however, any signs of overt or covert fear which it may arouse. So just pay attention to see if, some fear may come up in this process. This is our first attempt at stating an explicit cause and effect relationship of a kind which you are very inexperienced in recognizing. So it's these baby steps, right? Do not dwell on the concluding statement and try not even to think of it except during the practice periods. That will suffice at present. So don't get too caught up in it. Do the lessons, done for the day. Unlike other lessons where it wants you to, when you're in a certain experience in the day that may trigger you to apply the lesson, this is not, because this is a pretty significant lesson. And so you really want to follow the instructions and just do it as it tells you to do it. So close your eyes, and then for a few moments, then open your eyes and say, "I am looking at a meaningless world." And then a meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. Okay, so that's lesson 13 for today. Good luck with it. Hope you're doing well with all the other lessons. Again, you can email me at any time at bettina@thesoulconnection.ca to ask me questions about any of the lessons, you know, to express how you're feeling and how it's affecting you, anything you want, you're not alone. I'm totally here to support you. And if you live in the area of anywhere close to Oakville and you would like to join our study group on Thursday mornings, you can go to my website at thesoulconnection.ca and find out more information or contact me. Have a great day, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye.